What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, and today it has finally officially happened. Za'Darius Smith is a Detroit Lion. So let's get it started. Welcome everybody to a video. Glad you guys are here, and yes, we're back with some Detroit Lions news, and this feels fantastic that a move has finally been made, and it is going to be Za'Darius Smith in a Lions uniform, which is going to look so good, by the way. I'm very excited for that. I feel like this player is going to look so good in a Lions uniform. Now his third NFC North team, the Vikings, the Packers, now with the Lions, wanting to play against those teams, and he'll get a shot to do that one more time at least this season. This has been buzz for a few weeks now that this could be someone that the Lions were interested in. Then we know a couple of days ago we found out like, oh, this is going to happen. It's going to be confirmed either tonight or tomorrow. That's what Pro Football Talk put out, and then they put it on NBC before the game started. You're like, oh, okay, this is definitely going to happen. And then nothing. Then it was just quiet. And we're like, oh, okay, wait, hold up. Is this going to happen? We heard from Dan Campbell, and you just assume that they're working out all the details if they could get this done. And we still don't have a lot of the contract details outside of the fact that the Lions will take on just over $600,000 in the remaining salary for this season, but I don't really know about the future years, which is a little bit more of what I'm concerned about than this season. That wasn't expected to be much, and on top of that, they have a lot of cap space right now. It's going forward, how much is he going to cost the Lions, because he had 3 void years set on his deal for over $15 million, and then next season, according to Over the Cap, he's projected for us to be just over $4 million in cap space, but I'm curious to see if that shakes out a little bit differently here as we wait on more details. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just over $4 million and that's it, and that'd be a fantastic number for the Lions. But I'm curious to see if that shakes out a little bit differently, just because that's kind of the key when you look at Za'Darius Smith, I think, for Cleveland, is how can we open up and relieve some of the cap space issues that we have. Now, the compensation to go get Za'Darius Smith was as follows: a 5th-round pick from this season, our 6th-round pick from this season, in exchange for Za'Darius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick. Now, this is important because the Lions this season don't have a 3rd-round pick. They do have a 4th-round pick, which is set to be right before the comp picks after you go win the Super Bowl. That's just how it works out. So now they don't have a 5th-round pick or a 6th-round pick. That 6th-round pick was from the Carlton Davis trade, so it wasn't actually our 6th-round pick. We also have 2 7th-round picks this year, as well as now an extra 7th-round pick next season. This is a very similar trade to what it initially was when Za'Darius Smith was traded to the Cleveland Browns, right? It was a couple of 5th-round picks in exchange for Za'Darius Smith and a 6th and a 7th-round pick. It was very similar. And when I see this, I just wonder if the idea of like, hey, Lions saying, we'll give you our 4th-round pick for him, was maybe just not enough. Like could they have preferred, say, we want 2 picks, so the 5th and 6th is just a little bit more, and we'll kick back with the 7th. Like maybe that 7th honestly could have been the holdup. I'm not saying it was, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was like, hey, we need that 7th-round pick. They absolutely needed this. I mean, just from a Lions perspective, real fast here, if you go back and you watch last game, of course, there were definitely occasions where it's like, oh, we don't really have much of an edge presence in this game. There's not really that. Now, in fairness, this is a good pass protecting offensive line for Green Bay. We saw, again, Tennessee, they had some real problems pass protecting against guys like Muhammad. They had 6 pressures in that game, but Green Bay did pretty well. However, the run defense is what stood out to me. That was a disaster, specifically at that defensive end, that edge position for the Lions constantly. Now, hopefully, just getting back Josh Pascal soon, and then Mekhi Wingo. That way, our depth isn't kind of what it was. I mean, it was Oliver, it was Pat O'Connor played, it was James Houston on the touchdown. I mean, it was incredibly limited in the night, the bodies that we had to put in those spots, and a lot of the big runs that happened when going back, watching that game back, going through the All-22, was through that edge defender position, just not being able to get off a block. Maybe it was Trevor Nowaski, maybe not being able to get off a block, not being able to work over a gap, just getting completely walled off on the play at that edge position. Not every one of them, but a lot of them felt like they were coming from those spots where they were able to handle it sometimes with just simply a tight end one-on-one. We not only needed Za'Darius for a presence as a pass rusher that's reliable, that's consistent, going to be on the field, but also someone that can help us against the run. He's not an elite run defender, but he will make us better than what we were with his size, with his length, and also with his play style, which is really good lockout at the point of attack and ability to set an edge. I don't think he consistently finishes off of it, but at least set an edge. It creates some knockback and some walkback when setting the edge against the run, and we always see the pursuit, we see the effort sideline to sideline and some of that acceleration to close. So he's going to help us a lot there. I'm sure they'll try to make him very rotational with the Lions. They won't want him out there every snap. I mean, I'm sure he can handle it, but I'm sure they'll want to make this somewhat rotational like he was with the Cleveland Browns. We talked about this guy a lot over here, so I don't want to make this like a halfway kind of breakdown video, but not really a breakdown video, but I guess I'm going to, because this is not the breakdown video, because I want to get this news out there. But again, this morning I got up and watched more Za'Darius Smith. Look, man, I assumed this trade was happening, And this was the second player that we talked about over here. We talked about him before I had seen any buzz on Za'Darius Smith, just because it made a lot of sense. To me, Za'Darius, we were live on Bleach Report yesterday. We were talking about different trade ideas, and I was telling everybody in the chat, like, there's a gap to me between Za'Darius and all of these other names. Arden Key, Aziz Ojulari, like all these other names, there's a gap. Za'Darius is more consistent. He's more reliable. I know what I'm going to get. The other guys, there's a lot of like, well, hopefully he can become this. That's not Za'Darius, the 32-year-old edge rusher. And by the way, depending on how this works out financially, I've said this once, I've said this many times, the idea of having him under contract next season is absolutely beautiful. That is a great pairing with Aiden Hutchinson next season. He'll step in and work well this year. He'll play left defensive end. He can step into that Hutchinson role. But next season, under contract, we keep him under contract, we can have him opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, and you'd have your entire defensive line set, which is another reason why giving up a couple of draft picks doesn't hurt you as much, hopefully, because you could have your answer for next season as well. Maybe not need those draft picks to potentially try to replace something. You can always add some depth, but the idea of having Pascal under contract as well as Hutchinson opposite of Za'Darius Smith in the interior now, the extensions we got from Aleem, and then obviously DJ Reader's contract, that entire defensive line is good to go. It's the perfect play style to play opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. He's much more close to kind of that Marcus Davenport type of play style, so it just makes a ton of sense. I don't see Za'Darius as a Aiden Hutchinson replacement. To me, this is not an elite pass rusher, and I said this again yesterday in Bleacher Report. If he's facing good offensive tackles, he'll give you a couple wins, and a lot of times that's all you're looking for. Hey, you go play Trent Williams in San Fran, just give me like 2 or 3 wins. If we can get like 2 or 3 wins, that's a win for us. But then against bad offensive tackles or very young offensive tackles that maybe just aren't ready, that's where it kind of became a disaster for that guy. Now, the other thing to this is we don't have Myles Garrett opposite now, so he's going to definitely get a lot more of the attention, and hopefully that means that Levi and Pascal, those guys will do some work, because a lot of it right now has been coming through Aleem, which did really well last week again as a pass rusher, but he's going to get the attention now. When going and watching Za'Darius Smith, just a couple of the notes, and I know some of this we've already talked about, but I'll just say it again. First off, he's got a consistent pass rush plan. When you watch Za'Darius, he doesn't win with, I'm a better athlete than you, have all the shake at the top of the rush, I am the strongest man. Like, he doesn't win like he's a very strong, powerful, good length. But the way that he wins is with a lot more nuance to his game. It's a lot more feel. It's a lot more, okay, tackle overset here, let me come back inside. It's why his body control shines so much as a pass rusher, because when you watch him, he doesn't seem like the most agile player. You also see sometimes his footing, and hopefully the turf helps him here a little bit. You also see sometimes his footing where it kind of looks like he's working really slow within his footwork to kind of position himself. It's not as sudden. It's not as explosive and dynamic as like, bam, bam, I'm going to plant stick, and then I'm going to get the edge on this guy. It's a lot more of a nuanced plan that takes a lot more feel of fighting the crease. Where's the leverage on the offensive tackle? Attack the half man. He's a little bit off balance. Let me slide by that. He doesn't play with ridiculous slither either, but he does have real transition power from speed to power as a power type of rusher into his bull rush. You'll see it from the hips. You'll see that ability to create force from the ground, and he's able to do this almost from a complete stop, be able to create quick force. He's got good acceleration, which carries to getting off the line of scrimmage. He's got a really nice package there at getting off the ball in his first step of good timing, good acceleration off the line of scrimmage. Those two things combined together with plus depth off the line, he's got a good first step package in his game. He's got the entry angles to set the edge. That's how he enters into contact, and it's kind of the same thing as a pass rusher, and he plays with a great path to the quarterback. We talk about quarterback vision. You'll see it on stunts. He plays a really good path, A to B to the quarterback, shortest path to the quarterback to just be a disruptor. A lot of times you'll see him slant. You'll use him on crash plays as a stunt rusher from outside inside. We know we do that a ton anyway, so this is going to work well. The problem there becomes he gets a little bit upright in those spots. Again, he doesn't have a ton of slither, though, again, he can kind of play an offensive lineman where if he steps down inside, he's a little bit off balance. Maybe I could try to hit him with the swim move and get over top, right? There's a lot of nuance to the game, but he's a little bit more upright in those spots. He has the best dip and bend in the upper body. Definitely create leverage into his bull rush attempts when it's clean and he gets a good entry angle. Then he can drive guys back, but in terms of just like pure natural bend and being able to kind of slip under blocks in the upper body, that lacks a little bit. I feel like he's rushing kind of straight up, and as you can see by the notes here, twitch on the edge, that's not really his game, and he plays a little bit wider as a pass rusher. Again, he doesn't do the best job of getting himself skinny. To me, he just does a little bit better of a job with angles as a pass rusher, and again, that upfield shake kind of lacking a little bit at the top of the rush. That suddenness there is lacking a little bit, which is why he leans into being a little bit more of a power rusher, but he does show that he can attack oversetting offense tackles, that he can get inside wins pretty cleanly, and again, a lot of that to me is back to the body control control. It's back to the foot control, to be honest with you. It's not a lot of false move in this game. It's very smooth. It's very fluid throughout his transitions. A little bit of stiffness. He's not incredibly loose, especially in kind of the upper body, just slip around blocks, which is back to the slither point. There's a little bit of stiffness there, but he definitely has enough ability to drop some weight and create knockback, create walk back into the pocket. I've been on Za'Darius Smith for a while. He just made a ton of sense. As I said, he kind of separated himself. I watched a ton of these guys, and I've watched a lot of all of these guys. He was the one that was consistent. I knew that he was going to have a plan. I knew that there was a variety of ways to win, though he leans a little more power rusher.
If you're looking for more of a breakdown until we get to the video, definitely check out the one I made like 2.5 weeks ago before we traded for the player, because it's a very unbiased approach because we didn't make the move at that point, so I couldn't really be biased towards it. But even in a play like this, you see that lean when you talk about turning the corner, and you'll see that when he transitions speed into power. You'll see it within his hips, that ability to lean and still create kind of speed when turning the arc. You'll see this a lot, and here it is where he's getting upfield.
But he also consistently wins every game, and you also see that he wins a lot of the same ways. So it's not like a flash play where like, oh, if we could just get that more out of you, Za'Darius. It's like, no, he's going to win consistently. He's going to win game in and game out, kind of the same type of ways. You know exactly what you're getting from Za'Darius, and I think that's what the Lions really needed an edge right now, right? You could have a lot of guys that maybe on one day they're really good, other games are not. We need a guy that's a consistent presence on this team, just someone that consistently affect the quarterback that we can rely on, and to me, that's what Za'Darius Smith is, which is why this is the perfect addition for where the Lions are at right now, right? If you looked at Za'Darius against Baltimore, Rosengarten was trying to play tackle. He was absolutely cooked in that game. He had zero answer for Za'Darius Smith. You watch him against the Chargers, he was less impactful. You didn't notice him as much. You have Joe Alt, you have Slater, you have some of the better tackles in football. You didn't notice him as much, but you did get crucial wins. You got wins before the half. You got different wins as well, inside, outside, where he could turn the corner on guys. He has a nice little long arm move, which leverage that he creates, where at the top of the arc, he can really close the top of the arc. He doesn't constantly get just pushed and washed out of the top of the pass rush or out of the top of the arc and washed out of the back of the pocket, because he can drop that weight. Again, he creates good angles in those spots where he can play off and off the tackle to kind of get underneath his pads, and that's what Za'Darius is about. So far on the season, he has 5 sacks as well as 27 pressures and 14 solo tackles. You can see his PFF grades on the screen. This is a great addition for the Lions. I'm glad it finally happened, and he was very easy to point out early in the process, and the idea of having him for multiple seasons is even better. We'll see if the second thing happens. I plan on doing a breakdown video hopefully at some point this week, so stay tuned for that. It's kind of messy this week with all the trade stuff, but I plan on doing that, so stay tuned for it. But until then, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Prime, for watching. Welcome, Za'Darius. I'm really tempted. I kind of want to get a jersey. I might have to do it, and I'm out.